Welcome to What's What with Heather Harris, the podcast for the fiercely hopeful. Here, we explore the lesser-known innovations, overlooked ideas, and hidden forces quietly shaping our human experience. I'm your host, Heather Harris. Let's find out what's what. Well, here we are at the final episode of our first season of What's What. This podcast has evolved over the past year, and as I was reflecting on the conversations we've shared, I noticed a thread I hadn't intentionally planned. No matter what we touched on, whether it was based in science or community or leadership or learning, whatever it was, every guest invited us to look a little more deeply at what it means to be human. Each conversation planted a new way of seeing the world within me, and I hope it did in you too. And so I can't think of a better way to wrap up this season than to speak to Karen Van Kampen. Karen is an award-winning health and science journalist who has explored the familiar yet frontier landscape of dreams in her latest book, The Brain Never Sleeps: Why We Dream and What It Means for Our Health. Inspired by a lifelong fascination with sleep science, Karen combines compelling storytelling with cutting-edge neuroscience to explore one of the greatest mysteries of human experience: our dreams. Together, we explore how dreams help us process emotion, strengthen memory, fuel creativity, confront fears, and even improve our learning. Our sleeping minds are not disconnected from our waking lives. They're integral to our lived experience. I hope that after listening to this episode, you will continue turning these ideas over in your mind as I have, making unexpected connections and challenging your own assumptions. Each time we learn, explore our curiosity, and engage with these new and hopeful voices of our time, we are quietly reshaping how we understand ourselves and the world around us. So before I close one season and begin to imagine the next, let's take a closer look at what our dreams might reveal about who we are, what we fear, what we hope for, and who we're becoming. I'm Heather Harris. This is What's What. Now let's dive in. Thanks, Karen, for joining me on What's What. I am so excited to have this conversation because it is almost like an uncharted world. We're going to be talking about your book, The Brain Never Sleeps, and why we dream and what it means for our health.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
So your book sits at the intersection of science and sort of mystery and wonder. Why dreams? Why were you so captivated by this subject matter that you wanted to write an entire book about it?
So I've always been fascinated by dreams. I think it probably started, my dad's a sleep doctor. So I grew up in a house where I was really hyper-focused on sleep and the importance of sleep. And I was always thinking about, you have to get enough sleep. And then a few years ago, I read this article, this study that said we are potentially as dream deprived as we are sleep deprived. And it got me wondering, why do dreams matter on their own? And what's happening to us? What benefits are we missing out on if we're not getting enough dreams? So that kind of set me off on this exploration of this, our alternate realm of thought and experience, which is dreams.
Yeah, it's interesting because as soon as I opened your book, I thought, I've never really looked at dreams this way. I mean, there's always been this sort of woo-woo dream analysis and Freud interpretation of dreams and all that kind of thing. But really, what influence do dreams have on our daily life and our health and wellness? So has there been like a particularly specific discovery that you found or uncovered during your research that has changed how you think about dreaming?
So I feel so lucky that I was able to spend several years focusing on dreams, my dreams, dream science, all the latest findings in dreams, dream research. And it totally has given me a completely different view and perspective on my own dreams. I used to always think about dreams. If I woke up and I thought about a dream and I wondered, what was that about? I would have this tendency to think, okay, something happened in my waking life and I'm going to associate it and connect it with my dreams. But there's so much going on that really the latest dream science that I delved into, and I got to speak and hear about all of the different studies from all these different scientists, has completely changed my view of dreams. A few areas that are new. It's this emerging new frontier, almost like a next frontier in dream science, is called dream engineering, and how you can potentially use technology to help guide your dreams. And so with the help of a dream scientist, I set up this sort of ad hoc dream experiment at home. And I was able to try and guide those initial dream thoughts when you're first falling asleep into sleep onset, those first few minutes of sleep. So it was really, do you want me to tell you about how?
Yeah, let's get into it.
It was so fun. So basically what you do is you think of something that you want to focus on. So they did a study on trying to think of a tree. So I thought, I'm going to do the same thing. So remember to think of a tree as you're falling asleep. And then I did voice recordings using my own voice saying, remember to think of a tree. And at different times, so as I was just lying down, closing my eyes, trying to sort of calm down and drift off, this recording said, remember to think of a tree. And then my mind started wandering and I started thinking concretely of, dreams around my property, like this one tree that doesn't grow on my property. And then it got me thinking about all these other trees. And then my thoughts started to tumble and swirl from one to another and get more abstract and creative. And then a couple minutes later, another recording said, remember to think of a tree. So it pulls you back. Like, let's say your mind is starting to wander. It reminds you, okay, I've got to focus on this.
Yeah.
Right. And it was such a cool thing because you have enough awareness to be aware of these thoughts, but then you have this freedom of thought to let your mind get really creative. And it's these abstract thoughts of trees. So I did that, and I go into it in the book, and I talk all about all these different, like, one thought tumbles into a next, and then they got really kind of wild. And then several minutes later, another recording said, what were you thinking about? So then you can wake up and you can write down all of these different abstract, often creative thoughts, because scientists have found that that sleep onset they're calling it's a creative sweet spot. So it's this, it's almost like a dreamy brainstorming session is how I thought of it. And you can just think about all these really cool ideas.
I love that. I love that whole experiment. I loved reading about it. And I thought, I think I might try that myself, particularly if you want to puzzle through a question, or if you are a creative person, you might, noodle on a new project, something like that. Yep. What are the other implications, do you think, of dream engineering?
Oh, and one other thing is, and you can check out if people want to try this. So there's a new app and it's called Dust. And then so people can start trying these different things. It's really cool. So, if you think about all the reasons why we might want to guide our dreams, and it could be for self-discovery. As you said, it could be you're trying to brainstorm or come up with new ideas. Maybe you're trying to problem solve. Potentially one day, maybe it could be used for treatment for mental health conditions. If you want to guide your dreams to cultivate a calm mindset when you're in the dream state, that could be different opportunities. There's so many different ways. It makes me think, we have this whole alternate realm of thought and experience that we dive into every single night. We dream, every night of our lives, and we can really tap into this other way of thinking and seeing and being to better understand ourselves.
Yeah, better understand ourselves and have a real impact on our waking lives in very positive ways.
Yes, definitely.
So you mentioned, our mental health. And I think something that always puzzles us is nightmares, recurring nightmares. I had them as a child. Is this a way that we're trying to navigate perhaps, big life experiences or trauma? Or does it really have a message for us?
So nightmares can be debilitating. It can cause people to be afraid of falling asleep. A lot of people never seek help for nightmares,
right?
And recurring nightmares. And there is way that you can try and re-script your nightmares and bad dreams. And I learned about it, and it's called imagery rehearsal therapy. And, the last thing you probably want to do after you've had a nightmare is to think about it the next day, because oftentimes, we might bolt awake to try and escape our nightmare. But scientists have found that if you spend a few minutes, so let's say you wake up the next day and you've had this terrible dream, if you can rethink the dream and you can re-script it, you try and change those frightening aspects. For me, it was always a falling dream as I was a kid. So I would want to re-script the ending so I didn't fall or wake up just before I was falling. But it could be any detail. Some people, there's a detail in the nightmare that's really bothering them. So during the day, you spend a couple minutes and you think about a new version of this dream, and sort of I kind of think of it as giving yourself a way out, like an escape, but not avoiding. So if it's a falling dream, you don't say, okay, I'm going to avoid falling. It's more, if you do fall, how can you fall safely?
Right. You're rewriting the ending kind of thing.
Right. You need to have that resolution. Mm-hmm. So you do that, and then you re-script it in your mind, rewrite it. You could write it down. You could do a voice recording. For kids, if kids have nightmares, they could draw the new dream. Then you practice this a couple minutes a day. You practice this. And then the next time you have this really bad dream or a nightmare, it's almost, you can think of this as a different way out, your escape, and see if that works. So it can be very, very helpful. And, you could do it with the help of a health professional, or, you could try it on your own. If it's just a bad dream, you could try it on your own as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that so many people don't seek help for recurring nightmares. Yeah. And it can have a real impact on your health and happiness if you 100%. Are suffering while you're sleeping.
Yes. And you can carry it with you into the next day. And then it just changes even how you think about sleeping. And if you might work yourself up as you're going to sleep and get really worried, oh no, am I going to have this dream again? I really don't want to have this dream again. And you can start to associate sleep with this, negative experience. So
and become sleep avoidant. And then it has all of the, health knock-ons from that. So that's a really critical message, I think, to get out there, that this is something you don't have to live with.
Exactly. Like we don't have to be powerless to our nightmares. We can be sort of empowered dreamers. We can think about how we can change and guide our dreams.
Yeah, which I think is a fascinating thing in and of itself, right? Because sometimes they can be really kooky.
Yes.
Which is enjoyable, but also puzzling at the same time. One thing I really liked about your book is that you included so many of your own dreams in there, and they were so well recorded. There was so much detail that you could actually read them and identify these kind of funny little convoluted patterns that, do we all dream like that?
I wonder. I don't know. The thing is, when I was researching and writing the book, I was so tuned into my dreams. I was thinking about dreams all the time. I was writing about them, thinking about them, waking up with, I would wake up and do voice recordings right away. So it didn't, when you first wake up, you have that image, that idea of the dream in your mind, but it's just almost like a whisper. It can just be gone in 2 seconds, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I was spending so much time thinking about dreams. And, it's so interesting when you connect your dreams with what's happening in your waking life.
Yeah.
And a researcher told me that he would have these exam dreams when he was feeling his competency was being tested. So let's say he was doing a grant or getting ready for a presentation. And it started making me really think about my dreams differently. Are there certain people or ideas or issues that keep popping up at certain times in my life?
Yeah, yeah.
And then it just really makes you think about your dreams and this connection. There's that, intrinsic connection between dreams and our mental health. And there isn't this sharp divide between our waking life and our dreaming life. It's all one. It's all part of who we are.
Yeah.
And it makes me think when you say, sometimes dreams can be pretty wild. And I'm interested in how dreams reflect my waking life or my thoughts and feelings about my life. I'm also just as interested in these wild fictions that that I come up with, right? Like,
Yeah.
how did I come up with that? And what does it say about where my thoughts are and my feelings are and that kind of thing? It's so interesting.
It is so interesting. And that's the power of journaling your dreams. If
Right.
you can capture those little wisps as they're leaving your brain right
Yes.
when you wake up. And of course, your book inspired me to do the same. And I feel like I was in a bit of a dream desert for a long time. I don't know if I wasn't sleeping well enough to get into those deep stages of dream, but I didn't really recollect
Right.
dreams as vividly as I did when I was a child until I read your book. But as you journal, that's where you really can do a deep dive in how they're playing a role.
And I found that the more that you're keeping a dream diary and writing down your dreams, it's that you become more tuned into your dreams. So then
Hmm.
it's almost like you start remembering your dreams more and recalling them because you've got your mind on that.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'm really interested in dreams and travel. That's kind of an area
Oh,
that I'm really interested in right now. And I think that you were traveling recently.
yes. Yeah.
And so I was asking different dream scientists about this. How does travel impact your dreams?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to think about it. So, if you're jet lagged, then you might be dipping in and out of sleep. So you could be waking up in the middle of the night, and it's giving you different opportunities to remember your dreams. You might wake up in like while you're dreaming. And then
Yeah.
right. So, and you have these sort of middle of the night dream access to these middle of the night dreams that you may not have been able to tap into. And then, you wake up without an alarm. You might wake up in your bed and just sort of let those last dreamy thoughts kind of still percolate in your mind. So you have time to really think about your dreams. And then you wake up in these like unfamiliar surroundings. Like, I always think, how am I going to incorporate this new place into my dreams?
Yeah, they do. They filter in. And it's funny because this is really interesting that you bring this up because I read your book while I was traveling through Vietnam.
Okay.
And yeah, and so perhaps that's why I was so much more easily able to access them because I was, a little wigged out by time differences.
Yeah.
So it was a very well timed read for me.
It just makes me think of how, in dreams, we often dream about recent experiences. So if you're having these new and experiences that are potentially unsettled in our mind, things that we're still working out. So
Hmm.
let's say you're traveling and you're navigating through new places and you're having all these new experiences, there's a chance that they might show up in your dreams.
Yeah, and problem solving too. I had flights, this is going a little off track, but I had flights booked through the Middle East to return
Right.
back to the UK. And I was clearly very stressed about it because I was having these little mini episodic dreams of crisis and war and diversion and not being able to get to where I needed to be. So
Right.
trying to work out all of that stress, but also
Yep.
like the practical problem solving of it.
So that's one theory on why we dream. It's preparing for life's dangers in all their forms, from like, yeah, trying not to miss a flight to finding your iPhone to then actual being, chased by a predator. All those different things is, we do that problem solving and stress testing in our dreams.
Yeah, so interesting. Like role playing in advance so that we're prepped.
Yeah.
Not that, missing your flight or having to change your booking is too stressful, but for me, apparently, Karen, it's
Yes,
very
exactly.
stressful.
Yeah.
So we did tap into the fact that dreams can really spark creativity,
Yes.
right? What are some of your favorite examples of discoveries or inventions or even artistic breakthroughs that you came across in the course of your research?
So I loved how Salvador Dali used to do, I think he called it his slumber with a key method, and how he used to sit in a chair and hold a key in his hand, and below his hand, like his hand would be leaning out over the chair, and then there would be a bowl underneath. So he would, put his head back, close his eyes, start drifting off. letting his mind go wherever. And then when he dropped the key, he would wake up for creative inspiration.
That actually was the one that featured in my mind, because you also included it at the end of the book for the Dreamers Toolkit.
Yeah, that we can try and do that.
I thought that was such a neat exercise. If you're a writer or a painter like Dali was, a sculptor, anything, any creative songwriter.
Oh, yes. And there's been artists and musicians and scientists and all these, things have come to people in their dreams. And it's so interesting how you can access this whole other way of exploring and creating and thinking. Yeah.
They used to say, I don't think this applies anymore necessarily in today's scientific world, but, we only access 10% of our brain. Do you remember hearing that?
Right, yes.
Or we only use 10% of our brain. This whole area of research makes me think, well, we are certainly delving into the other abilities.
And how we can be so impacted by a waking experience or waking thoughts. We think so much about, our waking thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But, what if we didn't dismiss those dream thoughts and we sort of started really focusing on them and going, why am I exploring this? Why is my mind going here? What is unsettled? Why does this person keep showing up in my dream?
Absolutely.
Right. And there's these really neat tools online. There's the Sleep and Dream database. You can go and look and compare your dreams to dreams, across
of others.
Yes, of others. So you can look at what other people are dreaming of and see, different, say, symbols or things that keep showing up in other people's dreams. And then you can compare what you're dreaming to what others are dreaming about around the world. So it really connects us.
That's very cool. And I would imagine there are a lot of commonalities. Like you had mentioned exam anxiety.
Right.
One I had always when I was anxious was my teeth falling out.
I've heard that that's quite common.
Yeah.
I had one of those. Yeah.
Did you have one of those?
At the beginning of the research for this book, I had a dream about teeth. But I think it was because, I don't know, I thought it was because I was grinding my teeth. I'm not sure, but.
Could be. Well, this is it. It's almost like we're just beginning to chart this other virtual reality that we live in at nighttime. So do you think there will be a future where people are routinely using or accessing their dreams for therapy or learning or creativity as we've been chatting about?
I wonder. I mean, there's so much research happening, dream research happening. There's so much happening at Stanford and different labs around the world. I was speaking with a group at Stanford about anesthesia dreams and how you can, in this calm, relaxed state under anesthesia, it's almost like you're given an opportunity to process traumatic, upsetting memories. And you come out of these, some people have come out of these dreams and they feel, they call them, I spoke with different people and they call them transformative. They change how they look at their past and say a memory that in some cases was very traumatic. So, I think there's so much research being done right now about dreams and well-being, dreams and mental health, how it could potentially, these different dreams could be used as potentially alternate treatments. And for years, many, many years, in therapy, many people have used their dreams and reflected on their dreams. That's not new for sure. That's been going on for many years and for thousands of years. I mean, I found it really interesting when someone said, right now, we're the outliers about not reflecting on our dreams because, different communities around the world for thousands of years have been looking at the importance of dreams. So, if we can get back to that and really look at it and think, how is it that, we want to use our dreams in our own waking lives? It made me think you can spend your whole life never giving your dreams a second thought. You can focus on your waking life, on, the concreteness of your waking life. But what if you tap into this alternate realm? What if you start looking at your dreams and thinking about them? It gave me such a different way of seeing myself and others, of being. It's just a completely different way of looking at things.
And we don't want to miss that magic. You mentioned the anesthesia dreams, and there was
Yes.
a really poignant story that you told in your book about a bereaved mother.
Yes.
Do you want to tell that
I was
story?
so grateful to Mayor Lucas to share her story. And, she told me about being reunited with her son in her dream. And, she had been suffering for a long time. And after he passed away, after he died, and, she was reunited with him in her dreams. And, she said that they saved her life with the anesthesia dreams, right? And she was in surgery having an operation, several operations, but she really had her life saved by having this transformative experience through her anesthesia dream. And, to hear someone talk about it and see how a dream experience can be so impactful and how it can change your life. It really shows how this intrinsic connection, between dreams and our waking lives, dreams and our mental health. And, it gives us this, specifically under anesthesia, it gives you in this calm and relaxed state the ability to revisit and reprocess for people who've had traumatic memories or difficult, distressing situations and really process them differently while you're in this relaxed state.
Yeah, what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift that story is, because it might be shared in such a way that someone else may benefit.
Right. And she wants to get the word out and let people know because it was so transformative for her.
Yeah, yeah. So if dreams, this is kind of a funny question, but I did want to get your thoughts on it. If dreams vanish tomorrow, because I kind of lived, as I said, in that dream desert. If we didn't have dreams at all,
right.
What do you think the repercussions would be for us?
I don't know. It's so hard for me to think about if dreams vanished because it's the research has given me such a different perspective on dreams. So I look at dreams as, our waking stories are our memories. So, and our dream stories are our, dreaming experiences and memories and thoughts. So it's so, if it's like, if you think about what would happen if you lost your connection with, say, your waking thoughts, it would be so, right?
It's too bizarre to contemplate, maybe.
But I don't know. But maybe, you could look at it as, do you mean if dreams vanished and you didn't remember them, or as if you don't have any dream sleep? Because so if your dreams if you don't remember your dreams, then I guess you would just be focused on your waking life, right? And reflecting on that. But if you didn't, dreams are so beneficial to so many aspects of us, to our health. So, they help us consolidate memory and process learning and prepare for life's dangers, all of these different things. So I wonder what would happen in this sort of dystopian imagined situation. Like, what would that do to our memory? What would that do to our emotional processing if we weren't doing all this in our dreams? That's fascinating.
Yeah. Maybe that's something that does exist in the natural world, with other mammalian species. Who knows?
But we all dream. Except for certain circumstances. But it's, you can say basically we all dream every night of our lives.
And without that, we wouldn't have the toolkits to be able to function as well as we do in our daily life. Yeah. Something a little interesting to contemplate.
That sounds like a Cormac McCarthy kind of novel.
Yeah, it does. Dystopian. There you go. Yeah. Maybe I got that question from a dream.
You should write the book. Write the book.
Okay, I'll work on that, Karen. Yeah. I'll work on that. Or maybe you should. You obviously are quite established as a writer. So
that would be fun.
So we talked a little bit about the Dreamer's Toolkit, which I thought was a really interesting resource that you could do a little bit more of a deep dive in your own dreams. But what is the one thing that you would like your readers, my listeners, to take away from The Brain Never Sleeps?
The thing that really I've kept with me is, we're not powerless to our dreams. We have the ability now, we can learn how to shape our dreams, guide our dreams, to to learn and to create and to heal. And so we can really use our dreams for all of these aspects and enrich our waking lives.
Yeah, we have agency
Yes.
with our sleeping selves.
I found that so empowering to learn about that.
Yeah, I did too. So this podcast is for the fiercely hopeful, bringing in new ideas. Yep. And I think that your book really does posit a lot of hope for our health and wellness in connection to dreams. So after immersing yourself in this magical world,
yes,
and scientific world, I have to say, what gives you the most hope about the human mind and maybe the next frontier in this field?
Possibilities. Like for me, hope is all about possibilities and, how we aren't fixed. We're always evolving and we can rethink, the world and ourselves and others and who we are and how we interact and connect. For me, it's all about possibility and connection.
I love it. So where can my listeners find and follow you, Karen?
So I'm on Instagram, Karen Van Kampen on Instagram, also Science of You and Me. And you can find The Brain Never Sleeps, Indigo, wherever you buy your books.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I highly, highly recommend this book.
You.
It is fascinating. It is well rooted in science. It does give you a sense of hope and possibility. So I hope that you will return at some point to speak with me again. And I can't wait to read your next book, whatever that may be. All right.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me on What's What with Heather Harris. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way here because the more the merrier. The future is something that we influence and imagine together. I'm Heather Harris, and until next time, stay curious and stay fiercely hopeful.